Hello, good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening. I am so unabashedly delighted to have an excuse to join you all this morning. Thank you so much. I did really quickly. Oh, gosh, if we haven't met before, hello. I'm Jessica Rose, and I'm running a free web development boot camp with Ramon at the moment. And we're just adding some live streamed lessons, a Discord, a forum around the really good work Free Code Camp has already done. And we're doing their web development certification. Let me scritch up. Actually, let's go to the curriculum page and show you. So we've got all these curriculums we could do with Free Code Camp. And just like it sounds, it's completely free. But we're going to click on the responsive web design. And we're actually in our second week of this boot camp. Oh, we're halfway through our second week. Everything's fine. But the nice thing about what we're doing is there's no tests, there's no deadlines, there's no way to fail. So if you're a little bit behind, when I say I'm not surprised, I'm not picking on you, but we're going super fast. We're going to come all the way down. And so I've been alternating with Ramon, so you can see where I've been lazy. And one thing we've been doing in our partner streams about 11 hours from now, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, is we're looking at doing the certification projects, but with real world technologies. And we got some really useful feedback that said the project we're doing now with Couchbase, showing how to make the survey form where we've added using the terminal and we've added JavaScript and we've added a database, that it's too much at once. And I want to really reassure you, it is too much at once. So the streams from this week are really designed to preview some of the skills we're going to learn in the JavaScript bootcamp, which is later on this year. But really, this is so later on, after you finish all your projects, you can come back and follow along or just sort of passively listen and preview some of the concepts. One thing that I will do is I'll make time either this week or next, and I'll go through this project again with real world tech, and I'm just going to copy and paste over the JavaScript. So I'm just going to steal that unthinkingly, just to show you what that might feel like, just if you borrow the JavaScript we've written. So, yes, this project's way too hard. If it's not flip, don't worry about it. When we come down, we can take a little bit of a deep breath. When we work on the tribute page, this project has no JavaScript. It has no backend. There's no database. The tribute page is going to be much more accessible, much more really humane to do in real world technology. I'm so sorry that the flow of the course is to put this much harder one first, but I promise when we get to this tribute page one wait, hang on. Today, Thursday, Friday, on Tuesday, Monday, this will be a lot less scary. So, what you did with yesterday with Ramon was you learned a little bit about the CSS phew, box model by building a Roth, and you did the whole thing. You got no homework. Today, we're going to learn some Flexbox, and I'm really excited about Flexbox. Flexbox is both a system, a sort of inbuilt system for CSS for squeezing and stretching boxes, just like it sounds. But I'd argue that it's also a mental model, a conceptual way to address it. Also, after my own heart, we're going to build a cat photo gallery again. So, okay, we've got these boxes, and it looks like, I bet if I resize the screen. Oh, okay. Let's see what happens. So let's go super fast with this and help me with this because I am always forgetful and I'll have to look up very basic things. We're going to set up our doc type. And if you remember, this is just us telling our set up an HTML elements, I bet. And does the language go right here? That's in the head, isn't it? Where do we put the language? It's meta, isn't it? Oh, it's within the HTML element. I'm having a goofy morning. And we're going to set that to English because we're using English right now. CCA makes a good point to say, look, the tribute page is so much of an easier project than the survey form. No, I agree with you. Even if these are just opinions, these are opinions I share. I think that I think the survey form is a really hard one to start off, and that's a little unkind. Huh. Oh, so we do need. Oh, you want me to set up all of my boilerplate? That makes sense. You want my body tag as well? So one thing I do like about Free Code Camp is when you first start, it gives you piece by piece what you need to do every single time. And as you get a little bit further along, it says, you should know how to do this. You have a good day. So within our head element, we need a meta tag. Oh, do you want to know the worst thing is soon it's not even going to tell us what goes in the meta tag, and I have to look it up every time. So is it self-closing? Meta tag is self-close. Let's check and see. So the name of this is going to be set to viewport. Ramon's hiding backstage. Ramon, is meta tag self-closing? Am I being a goofball? I feel like it is. Hey, meta is self-closing. Look at that. I put that up as the bad website club, but it's really Ramon saying, Jess, you know it's self-closing. What are you doing? And then we're going to set the content is going to be equal to, and this looks super weird. I'm going to copy and paste it over and just chat about it super fast because we've done this a couple times before. The content is going to be set to be as wide as the width of the device, and then the scale is going to be 1 to 0. So it's not going to flow. And let's also add a meta tag where we're going to set the char set equal to UTF-8. And unless you're doing something very, very mysterious, your char set's always going to be UTF-8. That worked just fine. Everything's just fine. Let's add a title inside our head element. By convention, we generally add this under the meta tags, and I am a stickler for convention. We're just going to call this a photo gallery. Okay. And look at this. Look at it being mean to us again. It says, well, add a link element. And here we've got to do a couple different things, don't we? So we do have to set the reference for where it goes to our styles.css. But we also need to say, is it type? Looks like it might be type. Steve Wiley sheet. Everything's fine. Got that little green bar. Everything maintains joy for us. This is just a little splash page. So the boot camp's always completely free, and Free Code Camp, like in the name, is completely free. But this is saying, hey, Free Code Camp, not us, I don't get any money, is actually a nonprofit. So if you want, and if you have the money, don't you spend money you don't have, you could donate to them to make sure everybody can learn. So inside the header, so let's embiggen this a little bit. Inside the header, add a header element within the body, and a header is different than head. It sounds the same. Head. We're going to add a header element. Okay, come back up. We're going to assign a class of header. Okay, header class is equal to header. Okay, that I feel okay about that. And then inside the header, we're going to make an H1 with CSS Flexbox photo gallery as the text. Okay, so the head never shows up on our website. It's never visible. But a header is the section at the top of a page, and it's even more semantically specific. It's even more specific than, I bet we could check our code at the screen. It's even more specific than saying a section. A section could be a section anywhere, but a header and a footer are sections at the top and bottom. Below our header element, create a new div element with the class of gallery. Okay. And then inside that gallery element, 9 image elements. We could do this. So below our header, so that means in the regular body, on a div. Oh, and gosh, somebody remind me what the class in that was supposed to be. I'm having a very spacey morning. The photo gallery? Gallery. And here we've got image And I'm going to go ahead and leave. Oh, okay. So I've got one image screen, and these are self-closing. We don't have to, but we can add a trailing slash. We used to have to, I think. We want 9 of these. Do we want 9 of these? 9. So we're going to copy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's see if we've counted those right. We haven't. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Hmm. What's up with this? I said you don't need the trailing slashes. Do you need the trailing slashes? I'd be a little annoyed if I was just showing off. Oh! Hmm. Looks like we might need the trailing slash. Oh, gosh. And thank you, Cesium. Cesium points out that I don't have the equal sign between alt and what that is going to be. But one of these two things was keeping it from working. My gallery div class. Hello, loves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This seems like a very silly thing to be so spaced out about early this morning, but it can't hurt us. Let's just try. They are outside the div. Cesium, you're a joy. So these needed to be the children of the div, and I didn't notice that I had both the div markers on the same. What a goofy morning. You all are very patient. So we're going to give each of it an attribute according to the first. Oh, so this sounds a little complicated, but this is saying, hey, the first of these, oh, you just wanted the image element. Taking away my good work. And this sounds like it's going to be much more complicated than it is. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. I'm going to cheat. Say, Jesse, you cheating? I say, I'm absolutely cheating. Because what it's asking to do is add a 2 now after the 1 for the second one. Okay. And here, I'm going to copy and paste it again because I'm lazy. And I'm going to change that to a 3. And as soon as I put that in, these cats are too big. I don't think I've ever said that about cats before. 4, and then cat number 4 shows up. Actually, if I say cat too many times, we all might be treated one of my horrific children. 6, 7. Learner's saying that, oh, 2 days ago it was cat day. If you're not super into cats, I have bad news. It's kind of always cat day on the internet. I would call my own horrific cats over, but I've been trying to teach them not to bother me when I'm at my computer, as much as you could teach cat things. So we've got a whole bunch of different cat. Oh no! Oh. Sorry, I'm a normal adult, and I'm not tearing up because these kittens are too small. So this I think this might work. I feel confident. We don't have to look at the cats. We could do this in our own time. Our code passes. We're going to keep bopping. And the nice thing about this one is the Flexbox one is really quick right up until we get to the Flexbox part. So have we talked about this star selector yet? This star selector is really useful. So this star selector is a root selector. And what it's saying is please select not a type, don't select a class, and definitely don't select an ID. I want you to select everything within hang on. Goodbye, styles. I want you to select everything within these HTML elements. That's our root. And I want you to apply the styles to all of it. Learner, after my own heart. You say, this is going to select everything within our HTML document. All right. CZ was pointing out it's hard to teach cats to leave you alone while you're at a computer, but I feed them right before I stream, so it's cheating. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna set a box size property. And I don't think we've done this yet, but a nice thing is we know that's the property and we know border box is the value. It didn't seem to do much, but it's right. Even if we haven't seen these before, what can we do? We can look it up. We could ask somebody else who might know, or we could just experiment. We could just see how it feels. Hmm. Let's see what that did. It says our images are too big. Okay, we could do this. So we want to use a class selector. So everybody in the gallery class and set some rules in these curly braces. I'm going to set a max width of 350 pixels. And we're going to talk about a bunch of different types of um, sizing units. What a strange thing to pop out of my head. We're just looking at a bunch of different sizes, but these are absolute. So our max width is 350 pixels, but we're also going to set our height to height to height. Set that to 300 pixels just to keep that a uniform size. So even if we stretch it out, it doesn't get too much bigger. It doesn't get smaller yet, and I bet we're gonna gallery image, gallery image. There we go. That makes more sense. I thought that looked still a little bit too big. So what I neglected to do, I was setting it to the gallery itself. So I was setting the size of the div, not the size of the images in the div. That's chill. What are you doing now? Oh, the width property is set to 100%. The one thing I love, one of the things I love best about teaching this boot camp is it really chills me out about making goofy little mistakes. All right, we're going to remove the margin. How do we? It doesn't tell me how to remove the margin. So I know we're going to do stuff with our body. We've done margin stuff a couple times. I think I could set the margin to 0. Oh, that worked. Everything's fine. But this is really nice because even if we haven't seen it before, we don't need to freak out. I mean, you can freak out. We've changed our font. Let's give it a background color. We're going to use these hex codes. We're going to use these magic codes. Color spelled the American way. And we're going to set that to a hex. F5. Yet. F6. Oh, pink. But it's not staying pink. We're also going to F7. That's pretty much what we started at. Learner, you got that there so fast I didn't even see it. You're like, hey, we get rid of a margin by setting a margin to 0. And I bet we're going to do that tons of times. Thank you so much. We're going to check our code. It wants it to be almost white, but not quite. So, okay. Now we're going to align our center in the header. Okay. So we're going to do some stuff to our header now. I think I could say align center. Does that work? That doesn't work. Oh, I've got it. It's text align, isn't it? Text align center. Oh, gosh, it isn't working because I've added an extra full stop. There we are. And so I don't think we've done this yet. And I think this is magic. This feels like magic. You might say it's kind of weird that we've got all lowercase and it's a title. We're going to use text transform. We're going to make it upper. Yes, we're going to make it uppercase just magically. Let's add a padding. And remember, the padding is the space inside an element. So it's like the bubble wrap inside the element. Whereas a margin is the amount of space your element is pushing away from the outside. Here we're going to do a padding, 32 pixels, and it's the same on all sides. So we only have to put this once. We're going to set the background to, we're going to use that hex again, 0A, 0A, 23. Let's change the text color. Is it text color? It's definitely not text. I've completely forgotten text color CSS. Oh, it's the color. It's just color. Oh, thank you so much. It is just color, and that's good. To Alt FFF. Oh, and that hasn't worked because I don't have a semicolon there, and I need to set everything's fine. Oh, everything's not quite as fine as it could be yet. Let's set a border on the bottom, and let's set that to 4 pixels, and we want it to be solid. Thank you so much, Grace. You are just after my own heart helping me out. Actually, all of y'all are far too sweet. And then we got FDB 34.7. Okay, so just that little bright orange stripe. I think this is good. Have I stretched out? We didn't limit the size. We didn't limit how wide that this is going to get, but we did limit how wide the cats could get. And that's why we're seeing the difference here. I think this might be okay, and everything is okay. So let's talk about Flexbox, because Flexbox is weird. Weird in a good way. It's so powerful. But I like to think of it as a mental model. And a mental model is how you build structures in your brain to deal with different things in your environment. So my favorite example of building a mental model is my cats, who are not here, because that would be the one time it would be useful to have a cat on me. My cats love a laser pointer, but there's no sort of laser pointers in their experience. They have a mental model of the laser pointer where they treat it as though it's a bug. They say, oh, I have a mental model for bugs, which is chase, 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 get, get, get. This laser pointer, I've got a mental model I can apply to it. I'll think of a better example that doesn't involve cats someday. So Flexbox is a CSS layout. So it is built into CSS, it's programmed in. But I also like to think of it as a mental model of stretching and squishing boxes. Think about it. All of these boxes need to squish together. And let's go ahead and try it. The way you set this is we set a we apply this model, both mental and CSS. We apply it to elements, or we could apply it to our whole. We'd apply it to everything by setting it to our star selector. And we're going to set our display. We're going to see this again. We're going to set it to flex. And what we're doing here is we're saying, oh, what we're saying here is, hey, CSS, I want to use this pre-built system that you have for flex. And within the gallery, I want all of its children within this flex container. So when I say display flex for gallery, this makes a flex container with the gallery. The gallery is now a flex container. And all of the children, all of these images are now flex items. I'm going to check our code. Everything's, and don't worry if this doesn't make sense yet. This is hard. This is weird. This is a brand new metal model. This is like seeing a laser pointer for the first time. So Flexbox has a main and a cross axis. Yeah, so like an X and a like an X and a Y. Yeah. Row is the default axis, and these are horizontal, and they're going to flex from left to right by default. Okay. Row reverse is another axis. We say, hey, we're still on this horizontal axis. Blink. Where were you a minute ago? Hello. Yeah, is that feeling okay now? I'm so sorry. That's very rude of me. I was just chuckling and chuckling for ages. I'm so sorry. We'll cut this out of the replay. Okay, we'll go super fast then because you just got me be like, ha ha, ha ha. Oh, that must have looked so weird. So, by default, row is horizontal, left to right. Row reverse is horizontal, right to left. Column by default comes down, and column reverse comes up. The one thing I wanted to note is that if you're using a language on your website that isn't left to right or RTL, as language nerds say, that this might change the direction of your flow. So if you're building a website and you're using Persian as your text, it's probably going to reverse the horizontal flows. I don't know of any human languages that are bottom to top vertical, but if you know of any, please tell me. That would be so cool. So even though our flex direction is automatically by default um, row, we're still going to set it to row, just to be explicit. My poor loves, that must have been so frustrating. Y'all just got to see me do a little. Ramon says ancient Berber used to be bottom to top. Bubba, come on. Sorry, I call all of my cats Bubba when they're very, very cute and bad. So we need the flex wrap property. So setting it to wrap will allow the comments to automatically come in and wrap to the next row. And you might have seen this in oh gosh, what do we call a word processor? Oof, that's a very old way. You might see this in a text editor for words. So wrap or no wrap in like Word or Office Libra, it kind of means the same thing. So flex wrap here. If we set it to wrap, it means that when there's space, these items will wrap to the next row. Magic. And when we say no wrap, it won't do that. Is that true? Yeah. So we're going to set this to wrap by default, and everything's fine. If you see me making a bunch of silly faces, it's because my worst cat, who just unplugged my mic, is sitting right here next to the mic. And I love him, but I'm about to put him outside. He can't go outside. Justify content. And what justify content does is this going to say, hey, this is where within the main axis, so where horizontally, these items sit within their parent container. And this is going to affect their position and there's space around them. And that sounds weird. That sounds like a bunch of different things. But what this really means is right now, this is by default coming over and sitting on the left. We're going to be able to specify where within its parent it lives. Okay. So we're going to set this to center. So I think what this is going to do, I think this is going to and let's give us a little more white space here so we can see that happening. I think what this is going to do is it's going to center these cats and give us the same amount of white space on either side. It did. Everything's fine. So align items property is another little trick. Oh, heck. Align items property within the flex contents is the cross axis. So justify content is your main axis. So since we're doing this horizontally, it's on the horizontal axis. And when we set align items, it's going to set it on the cross axis. So here, the vertical axis. If our flex direction was column, these would be reversed. So here we're going to align items, very chill, items. Our axis is vertical, and we're going to set this to center as well. This hasn't done a ton, but it does mean within our page, it's going to always try and keep these aligned vertically if there's any space between them. That's super Blank, you cannot eat the he's eating computer cables. I'm so sorry. Bubba. Everything is so bad. Why are you like this? This is why you get locked out of the room in the morning. It's because you're bad. I've got 3 cats and only one of them is this level of bad. Oh gosh. Y'all can still hear me. Everything's fine, right? I hope so. So we've got that. I think that's probably everything is fine. Oh, and we're hustling right through this as well. Let's go to our gallery and this isn't even Flexbox. This is normal stuff that can't even hurt us. We're going to set our padding. And remember, that's the space that's the extra padding inside your element. So it's like the chub in your cheeks or the bubble wrap inside it. And we're going to set the padding to 20 pixels. Oh, heck. We're gonna actually 20 pixels. Everything's fine. And then 10 pixels. Oh, amazing. So we got a little on each side, the top and bottom and the left and right. And then we're going to set the maximum width of our whole gallery, this whole flexed container that contains all our images. I set a max width of 1400 pixels. Sir, if you come over to my computer again, I'm going to be very unhappy, little cat. And then we're going to set our margin to 0 and auto. We're going to do that by using the correct syntax, huh? 0 and auto is just automatically going to center it, huh? So we've got, it's a little weird that these aren't centered anymore. Have I broken something? Does this need a, does that need a comma? I don't think it takes a comma, but let's check. Our gallery should have a margin of 0. Auto is the value. Okay. Our gallery elements. I wonder. Maybe everything's fine. Everything's fine. Just a little tiny syntax error. It can't. Grace is so patient. All of y'all are like, thank you. Ooh, Learner makes a really good point. When we were talking about flex directions and align items is just the cross. Okay, Baba, come on. Thank you. You love some attention. Yeah, so it's going to be the cross axis. Let's check and see if it's also the other direction when we're done. Let's experiment a little bit. You stay right over there, sir. So we're going to submit and go to our next challenge. Let me save this question because that's a really good. And do you know what? If anybody else has any other questions, you just chuck them in here and we'll get to them as we get to them. Now, some of our images become kind of distorted, and this is because they have different aspect ratios. Let's talk about that. This is going to be really, really relatable because all of y'all have dealt with these problems before. You know how sometimes you take a landscape picture, and sometimes you take a vertical picture, and sometimes you take a little square picture. All of these are going to stretch in different ways if you have them all the same width and length. And we're not having this. We don't like it. We want to make sure that they don't warp as we stretch them. So we want to be able to stretch, but keep the aspect ratio, keep them in line with their sizes of themselves. So we're going to use the object fit property. And this is kind of what it sounds like. It says, hey, look, these objects, make sure they fit with how we expect them to behave. And we're going to set this to cover. And this should maintain our aspect ratio. So this shouldn't stretch these out in a way that distorts them. Instead, it should crop them. It should magically cut the edges to fit. And it's not perfect, but it's good enough. So our images need a little bit of space between them. The gap is a CSS shorthand property that does exactly what it sounds like. It adds a little gap. Let's go ahead and do that. So the gap property, and then you could say a row gap for only if you want those horizontal gaps, or a column gap if you only want those horizontal gaps, provides functionality for flex, grid, and multi-column layout. That sounds like a lot. Right now we're doing flex. Tomorrow, next week, soon we'll do grid. And multi-column, we'll deal with that later. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a gap using the gap property of 16 pixels. And oh, we look, it just dropped right in. Look how magical these properties are. We check our code. Everything passes. Let's go ahead and bop on. So, have we done border radius yet? Border radius is cool. Border radius is when we sort of squeeze our elements to round them out. We're sort of squeezing out the border. And we're going to set it to 10 pixels. I think in the very first lesson, we set the border radius of an image to 50%, which gave us, what did 50% give us? It gave us very round cats. But here we just want to smooth the corners a tiny bit. Did you see? Very, very faint. Just over here in the corner, we saw a little whoop. And that looks pretty good. Let's check that. It says, look, that's exactly what we do. 90% complete, 90% complete. This is conceptually hard. This is conceptually weird. If you don't get this right away, it's fine. Pseudo elements are like implied elements. So the dot dot after is like an element, but it's not a real element. So what it's going to do is we're going to say, if you say parent dot dot after is going to choose the last child of that parent. And we could set rules just for the last child of that parent. This sounds conceptually super heckin' weird. Unfortunately, the only way for this to make sense is to just try and do different things using this parent colon after. I'm so sorry. It feels like being a child again, doesn't it? Where, hey, this will make sense when you're older, but here it's this will make sense when you're older in messing with these pseudo elements. So we can add an empty element after the last image, and we're going to give it the same width of the images. So it'll push the last image to the left when the gallery is in a 2-column layout. Let's see what it looks like when the gallery is in a 2-column layout. So we can do this. And what we really want is we want to push this last element, which I think it looks good centered personally. But what we're going to do is we're going to push it to the left, which I mean, I wouldn't do. I like it in the center like that. I'm also not going to cry about these cats being too cute. Dum dum. So, please give me my instructions again. Where'd they go? Ah. So we're going to give it the same width as the images. Yeah. So create it. I'm going to cheat. I love to cheat. Oh, I don't need to cheat. I was going to copy this into a comment. But what we're going to do is the container is gallery, isn't it? The gallery class. To make that pseudo, and that feels super weird the first time. That doesn't feel right, does it? But it's okay. We got that little warning, and that warning is just saying, hey, you don't have any CSS in here. We're going to set our content property to an empty string. And we talked a little bit about strings on the partner thing, the partner sessions this week. And a string is just these characters and numbers or symbols that are put together and treated as a solid object. An empty string is just these quotes with nothing in it. And now we're going to set our width. And let's talk about what we're doing here. Wait, what am I doing? What am I doing? We're doing CSS, Jess. Set that to 350 pixels. And here what I'm saying is, hello, I want you to, in the space of the last child, I want you to add some content, but nothing goes in it. Make me another thing, but that thing doesn't exist. It's an invisible thing. Make me an invisible piece of content, but this invisible content should be the same size as my real 350 pixels. Now, if we've done this right, now instead of sitting in the middle, our last kittens, which I know I've said this a couple times, I cannot emotionally parse how cute these are. It's disgusting. It sits to the left, which is what we wanted, even though I liked it in the center personally. Let's check our code. Everything's fine. So, I knew we were going to get to this. You must always, 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 unless an image is entirely decorative. Like if you have a blank spacer on your page, you don't have to do an alt text for that. Alt is going to be equal to, and I'm going to ask for y'all's help. So, what are good alt texts for these cats? I'm going to let you look at these cats while I copy just the syntax for where my alt text goes into all of these. Just a little blank property for alt in all of these. Okay, let's do this together. Ooh, learn to mix a point. If it's purely decorative, shouldn't you use a background image instead of an image tag? Almost always, yes. There are some times where you do want to add an actual image, but it's not that important. So, I think in the 90s, we used to have these little scroll bars in between sections a lot more often. You probably wouldn't alt text that out because it's completely decorative. So if your image has no meaning at all, you don't have to add alt text. Any other time. Oh, or if you have a caption that is the same description as your alt text. So if you use fig cap, you also don't have to use alt text. Yes. A sleepy calico cat. We're just gonna go super fast. What's this? A cheerful cat lying side down. I'm probably gonna spell some things wrong just because we're going super fast. Whoa, a moody, sleepy cat. And you might say, Jess, we know about alt text. Why are you going through every single one? And it's because I don't want you to say, oh, I'll skip this and come back to it, because you never will. A sleepy, sleeping in a blanket. Oh, oh, heck. A tiny white kitten. Oh, two tiny. Oh gosh, what is that coat pattern called? I'll just call them striped. What's this one? Ah, a kitten hiding under a blanket. Ah, Blink. Oh, he's not here when I need him. Rubbish, the worst cat. A tiny orange kitten. And what's our last one? Oh, a small black and a small white kitten. And the reason we always make sure to do this, even when we're in a hurry, uh, Cece makes a good point. You know, if it's decorative, you still want to have the alt attribute, but the attribute needs to be empty. Otherwise, the assistive tech will try and look at the file name. And this is another really good reason to have your file names be descriptive of your images and your videos, because oftentimes assistive technology will say, hey, what's this file name? What's going on with this? I'm going to check our code. All works the first time. We are happy. We are done. We're done. We're done. Flexbox is super, 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 super hard to sort of. Sometimes tech people say grok to mean understand in a way that fits into your consciousness. And I think Flexbox is super hard to grok, that we're pushing and pulling stuff on two axes. is always hard. And this is the same thing to say, hey, if you want, you can donate. One thing I'm super excited about this, and I don't know if we're allowed to stream it when it goes live, but they're working on building an accredited computer science degree. I'm gonna take it. Um, and I'll probably stream me doing some of the lessons because I'm nosy. But we're not gonna donate on this one. I do on my own. We're done. We're done. We're done. So I've got one really good question. If you have other good questions, oh gosh. Oh, that's why Milk makes a really good point. If an image is supposed to be skipped over by screen readers, we haven't talked about ARIA yet, but ARIA is something that's built into HTML and it lets you set special rules for assistive technology. And so I've got 3 cats. I'm so excited about ARIA that my smartest cat, who's not here right now, is named Aria. I think Aria is such a powerful tool, and it's so embarrassing to have forgotten that. Actually, for those of you who might be a little bit older and have done HTML a while ago, so the orange cat we saw earlier is named Blink, and my other cat is named Marquis. So if y'all know what Blink and Marquis are, those are very old, deprecated. So those are HTML elements that aren't even used anymore. So very nerdy, very HTML cats. So I just wanted to touch on one more time that we are doing a partner session tonight. It's going to be previewing stuff you won't have learned yet. So we're going to be working in the terminal, which is brand new. We're going to be doing some JavaScript, which you might not understand. So we're just going to be talking through writing some JavaScript. If you don't understand it now, this is a really good video to bookmark and come back to at the end of the boot camp. One thing I'm going to do to make the streams from this project a little bit more useful is when we're done writing our JavaScript and setting everything up, I'm going to go ahead and add some extra sessions. And I'm going to go through and I'm just going to copy and paste over the code we've done. So I'm going to set up Netlify. I'm going to set up my terminal. I'm going to set up Git. So all of it, just like I'm a brand new developer, like many of you are. And I'm going to set up that Netlify CLI, which sounded really hard. But I'm going to do that. And I'm just going to copy and paste over the JavaScript we've written. So that's going to be available on GitHub. You can steal it as well. You should steal it as well. But just really to stress that if this first project doesn't make sense, it's okay. It can't hurt you. Next week project is going to be a tribute page, and that's going to be much easier to follow along. So really, it can be really, really discouraging when you say, hey, I want to preview concepts for later. It's going to feel really hard, but the ones we're doing today and tomorrow in about 10 hours are still going to feel really hard. Don't worry if they don't feel right yet. They're just a preview stuff. So, what do you question? Is align items the other way from flex direction? Let's look at MDN. Line item CSS. Hey, look at that. You see that I've had to click it recently. Let's make you a little bigger. So it sets the align self value on all children of the group. In Flexbox, it sets the cross axis. So let's try it. So here, the interactive uses some of the values for align items using grid layout. So it looks like it by default takes the default. So it looks like if you're going horizontal, I think it does go the other way from flex direction. So flex direction is setting horizontal or setting row, which is horizontal left to right, or row reverse, horizontal right to left, or column up to down, or column reverse down to up. All those things I did while I was muted make more sense now. And align items should set it on the opposite axis. So if you're doing row, it should set it up to down. If you're doing row reverse, I think it should set it down to up. Amazing. Oh, I think I've already answered that. So let's talk about my favorite topic. Let's talk homework. If you're watching this in the morning, well, let's get to my favorite homework last. So this session doesn't take as much. We've done the whole thing. So if you wanted to, you could just follow. I don't recommend just following along. But This is going to give you some chance to, if you've got some time, to catch up or to do a little bit of work on your project. There's no deadlines. Your work's never going to go away, but it might be nice to try and keep pace just so it doesn't feel like you're falling too far behind. And the most important homework, so if it's morning, you have to spend the whole rest of the day being gentle and lovely to yourself. If it's afternoon, half a day, that's not so hard. And if you're watching this at night, you do not get out of your homework for this. You have to be very soft and gentle to yourself all day tomorrow. It is so easy to make mistakes in web development, and some of them feel like really silly little mistakes. It's just programming. It can't hurt you yet. Um, and I just really want to stress, the more relaxed you are about this and the kinder you are to yourself, not only are you going to study more because it doesn't hurt as much, but you're going to learn in a much more flexible way. I'm going to leave you with your homework too. Do a little catch up work if you need to, but most importantly, be absolutely lovely to yourself. Now, I'm going to go yell at a small orange cat. Have a good time.